cuma rebahan tapi bisa bikin perubahan. Waktunya mulai bisa apa aja dari satu aplikasi. Mulai adaptasi cara bayar baru.
Bisa, kan pakai Kris, jadi mudah.
Mulai eksplorasi cara tarik tunai baru.
Ya bisa lah. Dengan mobile tunai, gak perlu ribet.
Mulai melihat potensi bisnis baru.
Bisa dong, transfer luar negeri cukup dari sini.
Yuk, buka tabungan BNI, cukup selfie. Dan aktifkan BNI Mobile Banking. Mulai bisa apa aja sekarang.
Kapan kita harus mulai?
Mari tanyakan Jemas Iqbal.
Tunggu hari baik.
1 Januari 2112.
Kali.
Berani mulai investasi sekarang.
Invest saham atau reksadana
Di satu aplikasi ajaib.
gampang buat yang baru berani mulai.
Aman lagi. Bisa meroket kapan aja. Yuk, saatnya berani mulai investasi saham.
Dan reksadana.
Ajaib, berani maju.
Ajaib. Mungkinkah ku bayar belanja tanpa sentuhan?
Mungkin dong, hanya HP yang kau sentuh. Bayar belanja tinggal scan QR aja. BCA Mobile membuat semua jadi mudah.
Hello, and welcome to our corporate video. Companies around the world have been through several challenges. Some of them prevail and manage to conduct world-class business activities, while the rest are currently struggling with their day-to-day operations. We believe those could be enhanced through a solid system, a system so well-made and efficient to the level where the ordinary companies will grab an opportunity to implement world-class productivity system.
Through a system, we proudly name Run System, Enterprise Resource Planning.
It's not only ERP, it's Run System. Ini udah selesai nih.
Nenek nggak sengaja.
Hai Ibu, saatnya nih wujudkan rumah impian Anya. Lihat deh, ada program Wish for Home dari Sinar Maslen. Ini nih promo-promo Wish for Home periode terakhir. Mulai dari kafling, rumah, sampai apartemen. Yuk, wujudkan rumah impian Anya.
Realisasi pendapatan asli daerah terus meningkat sebelum pandemi sehingga meningkatkan kemandirian daerah, di mana 50,65% penduduk yang didominasi generasi milenial dan Gen Z adalah potensi yang sangat penting dioptimalkan untuk menyambut era Society 5.0. Pemerintah Kota Malang tak henti-hentinya terus menata dan mempercantik wajah bumi Arema. Salah satunya penataan kayu tangan sebagai ibu kota heritage Malang Raya.
Here we are, a place for you to learn, find solutions, and develop knowledge and skills in business and management. We provide you with the methodology of case study prevalent in the academic and business world. So if you want to be fast, sharp, and relevant in business management, believe in yourself, believe in us, because now is your time.
Beres-beres rumah. Duh, capek banget. Masih harus masak lagi.
Masih pagi kok udah bete sih? Nggak creamy banget. Dikreamiin dulu dong sayang. Pakai creamy latte. Hanya creamy latte, paduan kopi pilihan dan susu New Zealand. Rasanya lembut, creamy banget.
Bikin aku creamy lagi.
Ini rahasia ikatan cinta kita. creamy latte setiap hari. Creamy latte, kalau nggak creamy,
Dikrimin aja.
Kapan kita harus mulai? Mari tanyakan jam masih baru.
Tunggu hari baik.
1 Januari 2112.
Kali.
Berani mulai investasi sekarang.
Invest saham atau reksadana
Di satu aplikasi ajaib.
gampang buat yang baru berani mulai.
Aman lagi. Bisa meroket kapan aja. Yuk, saatnya berani mulai investasi saham.
Dan reksadana.
Ajaib, berani maju.
Ajaib.
Ini udah selesai nih. Nenek nggak sengaja.
Hai Ibu, saatnya nih wujudkan rumah impian Anya. Lihat deh, ada program Wish for Home dari Sinar Maslen. Ini nih promo-promo Wish for Home periode terakhir. Mulai dari kafling, rumah, sampai apartemen. Yuk wujudkan rumah impian Anya.
of the
Yes, thank you so much.
energy.
Good afternoon,
New
Pak
renewable
Edwin,
energy.
Pak Toto Nugroho, and ladies and gentlemen, the audience. Thank you. Allow me to present several views concerning update on energy transition that we have here in Pertamina. Here, we will talk about the global megatrend, and is already widely known, and a lot of people are discussing this in various discussions and events. So first, fossil fuel started in year 1800s, and then many people predicted that the peak season occurred in 2030. And then renewable energy will take over. And as we see on the slide, we could see the position of renewable energy at the global scale. On the left side, you could see from 2005 until year 2020 in renewable energy, there's an increase of 8 times. So it's quite significant from 2005 until year 2020. So it's worth $501 billion US. And then most of the countries here, we are committed during COP36 in Glasgow, where 137 countries are committed to net zero target. And this must become our priority. This is related with the climate change. And Indonesia already committed to this net zero target. Indonesia already mentioned that we will experience net zero by year 2050. And then here, we will also experience significant increase of using renewable energy compared to using fossil fuel. So here we see the increase of renewable energy will increase from 2010 until 2050. Now, this is a brief overview. Pertamina's master plan, and our main target is to become global energy champion. We have the market value of $100 billion US. And here in one of our pillars, we want to become leader in energy transition. Even though we realized in order to achieve that position, Pertamina cannot work on its own. So we have to engage in effective collaboration where other companies need to work together. For example, PLN, IBC, and other energy companies that focus on building and utilizing renewable energy. And this energy transition, you could say that it is a huge affair. So it's like a change of era. We shift from fossil fuel to energy of the future. And then on the right side, we see that there is a different cluster, geothermal, electric vehicle, and we also focus on developing geothermal. And in long term, until year 2026, we have a target to increase our capacity from 600 to 1200 gigawatt in the future. And then this is also concerning the basic public knowledge. That here we will have energy mix to 23% by year 2025. And we, companies dealing in energy sector, see this mandate as a necessity. It's a must that we must achieve this target. And from the government side, we receive a lot of support. And we understand that renewable energy is a dynamic sector. Every now and then, there are new things emerging, but Pertamina remain committed to engage in energy mix by 23% in year 2025. And then this is our investment strategy in Pertamina. Here we have the Pertamina group and the capex here. Specifically for renewable energy, we have in our subholding power and renewable energy is 8 billion until year 2024. So this is our long-term plan. And here we are doing everything we can to fulfill our mandate. And this is our commitment towards sustainability business process. We are implementing ESG scheme where Pertamina is focusing on becoming a more environmental friendly company. And we want to increase our green portfolio. And by year 2030, we could have a 17% of green portfolio. And currently we are at 9 or 10%. And with collaboration with various stakeholders, we're aiming to achieve 17% by year 2030. And then we also achieve various certification, international standard. We have various ISO certificates, including certification on ESG. And this is a good signal for an energy company like Pertamina. And we want to increase this and increase our commitment. So this is our commitment to support the energy transition process in Indonesia. Now, this is our vision and mission from PT Pertamina Power Indonesia concerning new and renewable energy. Now, since June 2020, we already have a mandate to undergo restructurization process. And here, we're focusing more on renewable energy. And in our subholding, Pertamina Power Indonesia, we have Pertamina Geothermal Energy and JawaSatu Power and JawaSatu Regas. And here, we have various business lines. And this is portfolio of ours that we put in our long-term plan. starting from IPP, solar PV, geothermal, down to battery development. Now, these are several activities that we have. And perhaps you know that we are developing geothermal, and the largest geothermal processing we have in Pertamina, and we have 672 megawatt in year 2020, and it will increase twice as much by year 2026. And we also use hydrogen as the energy of the future. This is one alternative energy that we are preparing, and we are developing a pilot project in Hulu Belu regarding green hydrogen. And then we have EV ecosystem, EV battery, and EV storage system. This is one pipeline project of Pertamina to embark on the future energy. And then we also have green refinery managed by our colleagues from the petrochemical and refinery. We have renewable energy segment, including solar PV, wind, and hydro. Now, this is as an introduction. The distribution of various locations where we are working from the end of Sumatra right down to Sulawesi. So we have Selawa still at exploration stage. In Lahindong, we have 120 megawatt. And then we have JawaSatu Power. And once it's completed, we will have 1.8 gigawatt to supply electricity for Java and Bali from the solar power plant. And then this is the strategic house that we have at Pertamina. I mentioned briefly about our vision and mission, and here we go to more specific regarding the capacity that focus on our core business. Here our target is 4 gigawatt for gas to power and decarbonization, and then 5 gigawatt for new and renewable energy. And our target is for developing geothermal and for solar panel, waste to energy, wind and tidal, biomass and biogas. So for renewable energy, we will focus on developing the roadmap until year 2022 to support the government's commitment. And then 1 gigawatt, this is our future business, as I mentioned briefly. We have hydrogen projects being developed, and in the future, we're hoping that hydrogen could be an energy alternative that the people could use, including one of our initiatives to work together and to confirm our position in green industrial complex. And we certainly hope that the green industrial complex could, yes, 1 more minute. So the green industrial complex, one example of this is we are contributing from using biogas. So we have 2.4 megawatt facility from our biogas. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Yes, thank you, Pak Diki. So Pertamina NRE will be the backbone of Pertamina shortly to support the green and renewable energy by year 2025. And you also mentioned that there are plans to develop an even greater green portfolio by year 2030. And you briefly mentioned about the capex is 8 billion. Now, in order to achieve 17%, you need investment. How much investment? Well, currently, our projection until year 2026 is 12 billion. 12 billion. And the biggest portion of that, is it hydrogen, geothermal? Do you have the breakdown? Well, for our pipeline, the biggest one is NRE, consists of geothermal, solar PV, wind, hydro, and then gas to power. This is the second largest. We have 4 gigawatts. I see. And then, so far, the technology is expensive. Now, how do you see the global trend? Excuse me. Do you think that you could produce a cheaper energy, and is it from solar? And I don't know, will this also interfere with your profitability at Pertamina because of EBT? Yes, thank you. That is the kind of question that business player must think about. So when we are talking about the investment in EBT, we are still consider it as high investment. However, when we talk about technology driven, for example, PLTS or solar power plant, when we first started, the investment value in solar panel is more expensive compared to what we get today. So this shows the technology development, how it could suppress the investment rate in energy sector that the people need. Another example, when we talk about PV battery, maybe the people now need to invest quite high if they want to have transition from the conventional vehicle to electric one. But because we believe the technology is developing and also supported with government regulation, then I'm sure they also need to achieve the target. So the high investment, we believe that it will pay off. And if it's not supported by the government, then energy transition will not be achieved. Wonderful. Thank you for that. And now I would give opportunity to our next speaker, Bapak Otto Nugroho from Indonesia National battery developer. Now here, the battery industry, many people think that Indonesia will become the leading player. And the floor is yours to convey your presentation. Yes, thank you. Thank you to BeritaSatu Media Holding for inviting me. Assalamualaikum. Allow me to share my presentation how EV battery and EV ecosystem could contribute. Now, here we have strategic mandate to develop in this sector. So as we know that one of COP26 agenda, they're covering 4 things. And the one that is related to us is point number 3, to accelerate the EV and EV battery development. Now, this is a consensus. And here we could see on the right side, when we use our conventional vehicle, we could produce CO2 emission, which is like 4 tons. And it would be different if we use EV. And if we use EV, we could reduce from 4 tons to 1.3 tons. And then if we use EV, that is EBT based. As mentioned by Padiki, we could use from geothermal, from biogas, or from wind. If we could do this, then we could reduce our emission. And this is important. And the transition for EV is inevitable. Now, if we see from the international scope, especially from Scandinavian country, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, they are the pioneers of vehicle phase out. And Norway, by year 2025, aiming to become a country with 100% EV. And then other countries like China, they will also aiming to use 100% EV by year 2035. Now we could see similar description from France, Portugal. They aiming to do the same. And Indonesia, by year 2050, Indonesia will ban fossil fuel vehicle, so that by year 2060, we will experience net zero emission. Now here, when we convert the ICE or internal combustion or ICE, we see the demand that we currently have. And year on year, it's almost 26% per year. And same with Denmark, the sales on EV could be 20 to 23%. Now we see that this trend will increase as the transformation will take place even faster. And then by year 2035, we see that our need is around 60 gigawatt hour. Now it consists of, first, for 4-wheel drive passenger vehicle, in line with the government mandate, is 400,000 EV per year that requires EV battery. Same with 2 wheels or motorcycle. We see that there is a large demand there. More than 3 million 2 wheels vehicle will require EV battery. And then also EBT power plant will need EV battery. So this will be the segment that drives our factory. And this is a very strategic one. And we must consider EV battery and also generate EV ecosystem. And then from this slide, we could see that IBC become the strategic investment portfolio. We work together with various partners. So here, start from EV battery provider and the ecosystem here. We need to develop from upstream, the mining system, and to downstream. So of course, we have to go through several processes like refinery, precursor, and we also need to push demand creation, especially for two wheels EV. And we also need to generate other opportunities so that the demand for EV is increasing. Now we could see here, these are the stages that we must go through. Now, on the left side, we start with nickel ore. And here, we have Antam as the largest shareholders. And then after that, from nickel ore, we use smelter. And here, we could process to battery manufacturing. And then for EV, we need our partners from PLN and Pertamina. And then to integrate this, we also need battery recycling. So the battery that we produce, all the minerals, well, almost all of them, we could use them again. And here, the media has covered this. We have two global players from China and from South Korea. Now, this is the main picture. If we want to focus from upstream, the mining, right down to downstream, the battery sale, then we need to work covering many partners. And it will take a large investment, no doubt. And the product may be in small size, but from upstream to downstream, we need investment roughly around 15.3 billion US dollars. And here involving various partners, including international partners that have the technology, the skill, and marketing skills, especially if we want to export our EV battery. Now, this is description regarding the challenges in EV and EV ecosystem. First, from the market aspect. So here, the competitiveness of EV. If the price of EV could be lowered to a competitive price, then especially for four-wheel EV, maybe 200 or 250 million rupiah, it would be good. And if we could also produce good quality EV battery, then it would be good. And also we need to provide many charging stations. And here the cost of EV is 30% lower from the fossil fuel. So we could use this as a benchmark. And then we could start with partnership with various bona fide companies. And here, also backed by comprehensive research. Regulation is another important point to support the usage of battery so that we could synchronize all related components. A simple illustration for Jakarta, if we use EV, then we no longer have to be mindful of the odd and even plate numbers for EV. EV will be exempted from that procedure. And then regarding infrastructure, we need to provide various charging station and spotting station for two wheels, and also mindset. Now the mindset of the users, because we want emission free, we have to see how we could make sure that in each strategic point there are charging station and safety issues, because we are aware that the public still have this perception that EV battery have risk attached to it. So these are several challenges and barriers that we face, and we are confident that we could overcome them. Now, this is a closing slide. We could see the importance of building EV industry or EV battery. So here, we could see the multiplier effect from EV battery industry. So if we only develop the nickel sulfate, it would be half. But if we could develop the entire process up to the EV battery, then the overall multiplier effect could be more than 300 trillion. And lest we forget, also job creation. And one more thing is regarding balance of trade. So we could export the EV battery, and we could also reduce import of fuel. So if we could decrease our import by 30%, then I'm sure we could save 3 or 4 billion US per year. And then we could also reduce emission to a very significant portion, more than 500,000 CO2 reduction annually. Now this is our timeline. And we have joint study with various partners. And here we are in the phase of engineering and construction. And by year 2024, we could start producing the battery together with LG in Karawang factory. And then by year 2025, we could have this operational. And by 2026, we could produce the EV battery hub. And we could become the EV battery production hub in ASEAN. And various research proved that we could become very competitive. And from the reserve of nickel, we have almost the largest reserve in the world. And then we also have the capacity to become global player of EV battery in the world. I guess that is all from my side. Hopefully my presentation could give valuable information to all of you, and you know about the EV ecosystem in Indonesia. Thank you. Thank you, Pak Toto. The battery industry in Indonesia has a lot of prospect. And you mentioned that the market growth is 20% annually and drive by EV. And by year 2030, the EV market would be 2 million. And then for two-wheel is 13 million. And then contribution towards PDB, you estimate there will be 381 trillion and could absorb more than 3,000 jobs. Now, I have a question. we have excellent portfolio because we have what is necessary, the resources and everything. Now, what about our position in the global market? And we engage in partnership with South Korea already. Now, do you think, is it possible to engage in partnership with other countries as we are entering the global market? Yes, thank you for that.
In our analysis, why we are more competitive. Okay, just give me an overview for the global market of EV. There are 3 global centers in Europe, in China, and in the US. Based on our analysis, with upstream to downstream analysis, Indonesia has the advantage of being able to produce EV battery at a competitive rate, even if we have to market it to the European and American market, because we can get raw material at cheaper prices, and our production unit is integrated end to end. So based on our analysis, the battery that are going to be produced in Indonesia will be competitive when sold to global markets, especially for cars in ASEAN and India, which is one of the demand centers going forward. I think we will be even more competitive. And secondly, you're right that in terms of partners, we have partners from China and South Korea, and they both, of course, have the same interest, which is to secure the upstream part of the production, because no other country has the same natural resources as Indonesia. So that's why they approach Indonesia to be part of this partnership. So we will continue to monitor this, but compared to other companies that try to enter Indonesia for its nickel, this is something that we will, that this is the basis for our plan to develop the EV battery production. Going back to Pa Edwin Nugraha, for coal-powered power plant, so they still dominate. 2/3 of our power plants are coal-powered because coal is cheap. And you said we have the carbon capture technology to capture carbon in a massive amount. Why not give incentive to this kind of technology so that we can still use the coal power technology? We also can benefit from this carbon capture technology. So the carbon capture technology has already existed, but the cost is almost as much as what is needed to build a coal power plant. So very expensive. And once we capture the carbon, this has to be stored. We have to send it to depleted gas mine. We put it underground through this location. So if we have a power plant in Suralaya and the depleted gas is in the waters between Sumatra and Java, so we have to pipe that carbon to the underground storage facilities. So, and this is why it's expensive. So I think this technology can only be used when the age of once the power plant, the coal power plant has entered a retirement age and their capacity has diminished. So I think it's the most appropriate time to use this technology. I hope that this technology will continue to develop and the price will continue to develop, because we hope to reduce the amount of carbon that is released by coal power plant. Okay, the panelists, before we end the session, we will answer some questions from the participants for you. I'm going to ask Julieta to ask the question. So some of the questions that we received from the participants this afternoon are, with the many, okay, so let's take a look at the question. We have some questions. Okay, let's update the question first. So we have a question from Salomo Depi for Pak Edwin from PLN. Can we reach the target EBT, new and renewable energy target, if we don't impose the carbon tax? The new and renewable energy and carbon tax. First of all, the NRE target the target of 23% of NRE for 2030 is planned through several steps. We try to optimize our coal power plant, which makes up 65% of our power plants, and then add between 10 to 20% of their fuel with biomass. So 18%. So that makes up, so we have now about 18% of new and renewable energy in the energy mix. So we have 5% more to go. So we need to develop the battery, and we want to use this technology for the solar power energy and wind power energy, but we need to make sure that this battery technology is cheaper. And as I have already said, we want to have installed capacity of 5 gigawatt. Now we impose carbon tax because we want to limit or to reduce the use of coal power in power generation. We want to, of course, we hope that the technology will continue to develop and rapidly, so that we don't have to rely on the 65% of power plant that are using coal. And we can retire them sooner while meeting PLN obligations to its client or to its consumers. So this carbon tax is imposed for that purpose. So thank you, Pak Edwin. But another question for PLN: what are PLN strategy to help the industrial consumers and household consumers to transition to renewable energy, for example, by installing solar panels, because people still find it difficult to install a solar panel. PLN believes that solar panel installment is on the consumer side. It's a demonstration of their awareness of the need to use renewable energy rather than fossil energy that are still used by PLN. We cannot stop them from doing that because it's their own right to do that. And if the consumer wants to use solar energy, they can do so. But the problem is when the consumer is still connected to the PLN grid, because the intermittency of the solar power energy. So PLN has to prepare gas power plant to meet the intermittent demand. So I hope that the battery technology can continue to improve so that they can install battery to storage some of the solar energy to reduce some of that intermittency. So, but basically the consumers are welcome to use other sources of energy. Pak Hari, do we still have questions for other questions? I think we still have some time. This is a question from Winto to some of the panelists. Most people forget about the transition from fossil fuel to electric vehicle. Most people forget about the battery. It will become a problem because of the waste that is left from the used battery. What are the steps prepared by the panelists companies for this? For used battery, as I have already mentioned earlier, in our development plan, we have included the capacity for recycling. So in the end-to-end system should include used EV batteries or other batteries that are for solar energy, for example, that can be recycled. So spent batteries can be collected up to 98% of them, so that the minerals can be recycled for new batteries. So we have the technology for that, and this is part of the technology that we have to develop to achieve sustainability of our batteries. Anything else Pak Ricky and Pak Edwin can add to this to answer this question? In PLN, the batteries are also used in our substations to prevent massive disruption, so that in the event of a disruption, these stations can still function. So as Pa Toto said, we continue to recycle these batteries. The waste is there is a mechanism to process this waste. We have to follow a certain procedure for that. And we have to follow that procedure to prevent the waste to create pollution from these used batteries. I don't know whether Pak Toto have calculations as to how the energy transition would also translate to another kind of transmission. There are some battery technologies that I have mentioned. They work differently, especially for different users, especially for those that for massive consumers. And I hope this we will soon have the technology to support this kind of consumers while reducing the kind of waste that might come from this kind of batteries. Pak Toto and Pak Edwin had given comprehensive answer, but from the standpoint of battery durability, in terms of duration of use, batteries can be used for a long time. And sometimes their durability may drop a little, but it's still usable. For example, batteries in electric motorcycle, once their capacity starts to drop because of age, they can be used as a power source as a portable power source. So it can be used to as a lighting source for garden lamps. So we can also reuse these batteries rather than recycle them. As to the recycle process that the others had spoken about, as time goes on, I think that in terms of technology, we will it will become necessary in terms of waste management to have the technology to properly manage this waste. And those who are in the business of energy are quite aware of the waste that we produce in our production line. So we need to have the technology to offset that. Thank you, Pak Ricky, Pak Edwin, and Pak Toto for the answers. Those are the questions from the participants. So thank you, Julieta, Pak Ricky, Pak Edwin, and Pak Toto. Before we end the session, I'm going to ask you to give a closing statement. Some of the highlights of your presentation as some sort of summary to the presentation that you have given. Let's start with Pak Edwin. Okay, thank you, Pak Hari. Ladies and gentlemen of the participants, we know that at this point, PLN operates a huge number of coal power plant. We need a good mechanism, profitable mechanism to replace this so that we can have a conditional system by which we can reduce carbon dioxide while still making use of the investment that we have put into these coal power plants. And we hope that there will be domestic industries that will grow in our country to help us we hope that an investment can be made for example, solar panel industry Indonesia and wind power turbine industry Indonesia to support us. And in PLN, we hope that we can be wise about developing renewable energy in Indonesia, especially solar energy and wind energy. Thank you, Pak Hari. Next, Pak Diki. Thank you, Pak Hari. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending to this event. As I have said in my presentation, the process to this transition process requires collaboration. It cannot be done by Pertamina alone. Everyone should work together to get to achieve the government target for energy transition, because this is part of our effort, our generation's effort to prepare ourselves for energy sufficiency in the future. For our future generation, we are preparing it for them. This cannot be achieved without support from the government in terms of regulation, and we need to catch up on the technology as well, and we need to accelerate this acquisition of technology so that we can adapt to the technological advances, especially in the business development, so that Indonesia will become more than a market. We are a market that a lot of people are eyeing at the moment, and we should not be guests in our own country. We all should be prepared for this. We need the support of the public, as Pak Edwin said. We need them to start to engage in green living style, green lifestyle. we need to educate the public, from the family, from your friends and our colleagues, as to the lifestyle changes that we need to adapt to be more ecologically sound. Thank you, Pak Diki. And lastly, from Pak Toto. Pak Toto, you're still muted. Thank you, Pak Hari. So, as a closing statement, I can mention a few statements. First of all, Indonesia we have a massive nickel potentials, and with the massive market potentials, we can become world-class player in EV batteries, and we can control the production of EV battery and EV car, electric vehicle in the region, in ASEAN and Asia. And our production, the development of this battery plant will have a multiplier effect to the country in terms of energy sufficiency, energy, and then in terms of job opportunities, and also with by creating EV battery ecosystem, we can reduce carbon dioxide emission by 560,000 tons annually. And this is a significant contribution to climate change and to our target to be a net carbon neutral country by 2060. So those are three summaries of our discussion today. So thank you, Pak Diki, Pak Edwin, and Pak Toto for taking time to attend this event. Everyone seems to be optimistic for transition to ecologically sound energy to provide our future generation with a more promising future. And of course, this will require the involvement and commitment from all stakeholders. Back to you, Julieta. Thank you so much for the panelists this afternoon. And I hope that it has been quite an insightful and informative discussion for the participants. We are now enlightened as to the steps and stages to the adoption of green energy in our country. Now we are going to choose the winner of the door prize for the third session, which is an e-wallet containing 350,000 rupiah for the best question that was asked for this session. So congratulations for the winner. So that's an added bonus in participating in this event. So winners can contact our organizers at the number 0855 100 1111. And before we conclude this event, we're going to do more. We're going to raffle more prizes. And who will be the winner of the 500,000 e-wallet? 3 winners. So that concludes our series of events today. Thank you to all the panelists and all the participants in the Indonesia Economic Outlook 2022 virtual conference today. And we also would like to thank our sponsors for today, Investor Saham Pemula, Me Mind the Bridge, International Coach Federation Jakarta Chapter, and emiten.com and Video. I'm Julieta Talambanua. Bids you goodbye, and we will meet again tomorrow, our last day of conference, and we will be inviting the following panelists: Johnny J. Plate, Minister of Communication Information; Nadiem Anwar Makarim, Minister of Education, Culture, Research and Technology; Erick Thohir, Minister of State-Owned Enterprise; M. Lutfi, Minister of Trade, Republik Indonesia; Ida Fauzia, Minister of Manpower; and Anthony Wonsono, Deputy CEO of BeritaSatu Media Holdings. So see you tomorrow.